We never know where life will lead us or what may hinder us along the way. But while every day can feel like one big question mark, it doesn't have to. With the right insights, strategies, and solutions from Western and Southern Financial Group, together we can look ahead to leave the unknown behind.
Jon Gruden is out of Las Vegas. That happened so quickly. Obviously, you had the initial emails come out, the report come out. He answered some of those questions about the racial trope used in an original email. And then more emails come out using, derogatory language, more racial tropes, homophobic slurs, all these things that ultimately lead to Mark Davis driving to the facility, meeting with Jon Gruden, and in the span of a few hours, him telling the players that he is resigning from the football team. You see more reports that the NFL was going to continue to release emails until the Raiders had an action on this situation. So I do think that's why it happened so quickly. My initial thought was, whoa, these emails weren't the half of it, nearly the half of it, if Jon Gruden was going to that quickly move on and resign from the football team.
I think that's the most interesting part of the story to me is kind of the shockwaves that are going to come through this and kind of like what this being the tip of the iceberg for what's going to fall and like the sort of what's going to happen with the Washington football team and that organization, and basically how those two, so the Raiders and football team, how they're going to move forward from both of these, because I think this is just the half of it. Like I said, I think there's going to be more from this. I do wonder if we're going to see some shoes drop in the Washington organization as well, and obviously with owner Daniel Snyder.
Yeah, I think the NFL said they reviewed 650,000 emails.
Mm-hmm.
And I think a lot of people are saying, wow, timely leaking of this. It's not, I would argue this isn't leaking. This is the NFL publicizing obviously the information with Jon Gruden to start, and it is the tip of the iceberg of others, potentially going downhill. I don't want to focus too much on, why he left and all that stuff. I want to focus more on now, what do the Raiders do?
Yeah.
They promote their special teams coordinator to head coach. I thought they would maybe do Gus Bradley there, but no. And now, is Mike Mayock on the chopping block? What does Mark Davis do this offseason to repair this team? Because this is one, it's looking unlikely now that this Raiders team can right the ship, especially with the state of their offensive line, now dropping 2 games back-to-back to get into a playoff mode. And then 2, this offseason, this roster is disgusting. I was looking at their top 3 players, in my opinion: Colt Miller, Derek Carr, Darren Waller. After that, you're pulling at straws. I don't even know if that's the expression, at who are the better football players on this roster. That's the concern I have. I just don't know what they do moving forward.
Yeah, and well, that's kind of been the thing with the Raiders under the Gruden and Mayock eras, the dysfunction and the roster turnover and just the basic in and out on both sides of the ball that they kind of just pulled me back in, 3 weeks into the season. The sort of fall from grace that they've had over the last 2 weeks has been about as big as I can remember in recent memory, where it's just, they had made some good decisions this past offseason in terms of the free agency at the time. They had actually put together a defense that was semi-competent looking. And yeah, the offensive line was still an issue, and they kind of did that to themselves by cutting their entire offensive line this offseason. But it looked like they had finally kicked off on the right direction. But now I think you're back at square one. I do think this will result in a clearing of the house at some point. It will be a fresh start. Anyone involved in any of this, I think, is going to be on their way out.
And I think that's the best move forward. I argue that the best move forward for the Raiders is to completely reset now. You're not going to get a reset in ownership. The Davises have owned this team for such a long time. He is staying put. And that's why I do feel that, Davis is going to try and maintain some realm of success here. But do they move on from Derek Carr? That's the biggest question I have. Obviously, Gruden was in Derek Carr's camp. I'm of the opinion that you can reset at that position and potentially, look to trade him to a competitor, a team that's with a roster more positioned to make a deep postseason run, and then allow your new head coach or your soon-to-be new head coach reset at that position and bring someone in. Do you move on from Derek Carr?
I do. I will say they have at this point in Derek Carr's contract, he has a cap hit of $19 million next year.
It's a good contract.
That for how well he's playing, that's a steal. Like that on the open market, his sort of level of performance is fetching in the mid to high $30 million a year. This is how much someone would pay for that. He gets a Kirk Cousins-esque deal if he hits the open market. So from that perspective, you could probably get a good deal in return for someone to say only $19 million on my cap next year. Hell yeah, you can get at least what the Jets got for Darnold, at least what the Eagles got for Wentz, if not more, I would think, more on the open market. So that's may not be, I mean, like if you're talking about where I would go at that position, that may end up being just because your roster as a whole is so bad, but you're so like incomplete and you don't have a lot of ways to fix it now with how much you've, spent and utilized your draft capital in recent years. So it's a difficult decision, one that obviously you don't have to make at this very moment. No.
I think it's one that they will make as they have more conversations with coaching candidates. You're looking to bring in new head coaches. Are they in on Derek Carr or are they out? And I think that's going to have to be probably the first question, the first conversation you have with these new head coaches. Do they want to come in and try and win with this roster and win with Derek Carr? Knowing that, I mean, if you do keep Derek Carr, there is going to be conversation about resetting that contract because he is a steal or at least, maybe not steal, but at least a bargain at a $19 million cap hit. I would not be surprised, especially with every part of this organization outside of Derek Carr maybe being a disaster, him looking for a little more cheddar up front because he's now the only like lasting leadership quality that this team has. So you could see him arguing for more money. Does the coach want to make that decision? Does Davis want to make that decision? Obviously, it doesn't need to be made soon, but I would not be surprised if they do completely reset, new coaching staff, new head coach, new quarterback, and try and completely rebuild this thing rather than half rebuild this thing like they did with the Gruden era.
Yeah, I think the big takeaway here is the Raiders are screwed. They're screwed. Like that's the big takeaway is you are in a bad way from a number of perspectives here. And you're at big risk of this team falling into, I won't say disarray, but sort of losing your leadership of that locker room and losing sort of the team and the momentum you had or like that buy-in that you had after the first 3 wins this season.
On the football field, there weren't a lot of answers for this football team. Now off it, you continue to have more concerns. Let's also jump into Monday Night Football.
Yeah.
Baltimore Ravens, Lamar Jackson puts on an absolute show. Mm-hmm. Beats the Indianapolis Colts 31-25. They do not cover the 7, but they do win this game in overtime. Lamar Jackson, phenomenal. 37-43, 442, and 4 touchdowns in this game. Only took 2 sacks. He is electric. 14 carries for 62 yards as well. This was a fantastic performance outside of the fumble. The fumble in the red zone, you already heard commentators saying, like, this is what happened. He has these fumbles. This is what happened against Las Vegas. He had the 2 fumbles that cost him this game. If that illegal lateral wasn't called back, which I thought that was behind, I don't understand the lateral rules at all. Regardless,
So the lateral rules, it's like it's where the ball ends up. But on the stupid when you're throwing a pass, a quarterback in the pocket, and your body gets hit and it ends up going backwards. If you meant to throw it forwards, it's still a forward pass. How do those two rules? How do those two make sense? Because those guys he was obviously meaning to throw it backwards. The guy was behind him when he throws it, and then it ends up going forward because of how physics and momentum works with the football as you're running in a straight line. But it's like he meant to throw it backwards. So I don't know. Obviously, it's just those two rules aren't congruent in my opinion in the NFL rulebook.
Either way, I do think if that fumble gets returned for 6, this game obviously ends up being different. That fumble could have been more costly than it was, but Lamar Jackson continues to have a lot of success and a lot of success through the air. Everyone talks about his rushing threat and what he adds on the ground, but 37-43, 442, and 4 touchdowns. He is responsible for more than 90% or 85% of their yards in this game, something along those lines. He was phenomenal. You tweeted out something. Maybe Lamar Jackson has figured out the NFL. Anyone think about that? I know you're being cheeky, but your thoughts on Lamar Jackson's start to this season?
Well, so Lamar Jackson is, to give credit to Lamar Jackson here, he is one of the best quarterbacks in the NFL at throwing with anticipation over the middle of the field and exploiting, basically anticipating holes in zone. Like he is exceptional at that. And you go up against a defense in Indianapolis that is all they did. They played 5 snaps in man coverage on 73 snaps in that game. Only 5 were in man coverage, which, again, that's Lamar Jackson's going to see a lot of zone because when he can run like that, you can't expose yourself as a defense. Yeah, you expose yourself to massive plays if you don't have guys looking into the backfield when he scrambles. But he's also very good at scrambling up in the pocket and keeping his eyes down the football field and being able to draw and move defenders. And so Matt Eberflus and this Indianapolis Colts defense had to do something differently. They were, in that second half, they literally were doing spot drop zone the whole time, and Lamar Jackson carved him up. He went 21 of 22 for 253 yards with a touchdown on throws between the hashes. He was anything he wanted over the middle of the field. He was getting. And it's because, and I get why the Colts do that. That is what they do. Not to that degree in terms of not playing man coverage, but that's what they do. But they cannot do that when they do not have a pass rush, and they do not have a pass rush this year, and that has been Chris Ballard's downfall as a GM. He is, the darling of the league. Everyone loves him. It has been the quarterback position that has screwed him, and the fact that they have not been able to identify pass rushing talent, whether it's Ben Banigou, Tyquan Lewis. Obviously, Kwity Paye is only a rookie, but was hurt, I believe, in this one. Kemoko Turay. All these guys they've thrown draft capital at in the first, second round have not been able to hit. That's why they pay that premium to go get Forrest Buckner. But even he this year, only a 73.2 pass rushing grade, not the kind of guy we've seen in the past. So when you can only pressure Lamar Jackson on 13 to 52 dropbacks, and even when he wasn't pressured in this game, 2.8 second average time to throw, and that's without pressure, you're going to leave those holes in the zone very, very susceptible. And so the Colts, I don't know if it gets better because they don't have the pass rushers walking through that door. If you're not going to get pressure against this Ravens offensive line, when they have to pass in that second half, they had to pass, you're not going to get pressure against a lot of teams in the NFL. And that's a scary thought for them, hopefully turning around when Carson Wentz finally looks kind of good in one game. When your defensive line still can't get pressure, I think they're just SOL, Colts this year, sadly.
Yeah, Wentz only took 2 sacks in this game, went 25 of 35 for 402 and 2 touchdowns. I think you hit the nail on the head. That was excellently put in that. Played a ton of zone. Lamar carved him up, and they just simply could not get pressure on Lamar Jackson. You go back to that Raiders game that they lost. Max Crosby and Nick Ngakoue were tearing it up against the Baltimore Ravens. Got a lot of pressure on Lamar Jackson, forced those fumbles, and that ultimately helped them win that game. Indianapolis, not quite the case. I have one more point on this one. It's really on the 2020 receiving class, and Marquise Brown stepping up this year. Marquise Brown, 9 of 10, 125, and 2 touchdowns in this game. Everyone focuses on the drops. Did not have a drop in the end zone this time. And I think he has been so much better than he has the previous year. And same with Henry Ruggs and some of these other guys. Obviously, so much of the spotlight was on Judy, CeeDee Lamb, and Justin Jefferson. Now, Marquise Brown and Henry Ruggs also playing well. Your thoughts on Brown and his start to the season?
Marquise Brown was a different draft class, buddy.
I'm an idiot.
A.J. Brown's draft class.
I'm an idiot. A.J. Brown's draft class. Yeah. I'm sorry.
And N'Keal Harry. It's all right. But, I mean, Marquise Brown's always been able to get open is the thing. Like, he's always been able to do that. Now he's finally... him and Lamar are finally kind of meshing, and he's not dropping it when they're meshing. It's probably the bigger reason. I don't think, like, he's always been a weapon in that offense. And now when now I'm blanking on the names. Minnesota wide receiver Rashad Bateman, when he finally comes back, finally is healthy, I think you're going to see this offense, continue to look like it has this past 2 weeks. Like, yes, Colts without some guys there on the back end in this game, but I don't think this is a blip in the radar. I think this Ravens offense is a step forward from what we saw last year.
I think it's I apologize for missing out on the damn Marquise Brown wrong draft class, but definitely excited to see him improved over this year for sure. And Rashad Bateman, I think, is expected to play in Week 7. Some people thought he could make his debut on Monday Night Football in Week 6. He is now on pace to play in Week 7. Let's go ahead and get into now the biggest risers and fallers for the College Football Week 6. But before we do so, got to bring up Tailgate now has a promo code for PFF. If you want access to PFF.com, any subscription, you can use promo code TAILGATE to save 25% off on any subscription at PFF.com. That can get you access to the fantasy content, the gambling content, all of the grades and stats that we speak to. Also, college football subscriptions. We got college grades, college data, all that stuff. I would highly encourage you go to PFF.com and use promo code TAILGATE, TAILGATE, to get 25% off any PFF subscription. All right. Risers and fallers. Starting with the risers. Isaiah Likely had a 99-yard touchdown for Coastal Carolina, had one of the highest receiving yards totals for a tight end in a long time. He was fantastic in this game, continues to be impressive, and will join the show tomorrow, by the way, Mike Renner. He is on he is on one of your risers list here.
Yeah, he's not a tear. He's gone from 3 successive weeks, set his mark for most receiving yards in a game this season. Goes 76 yards against UMass a couple weeks ago, 95 last week against Louisiana Monroe. We highlighted him. And then 232 yards, 4 touchdowns. Now, some of that's Coastal Carolina and all the crazy shit they do in their backfield with the two-back option looks, and then just leak Isaiah Likely out a lot. That was the 99-yard touchdown. That was another touchdown he had up sideline on a wheel. But Isaiah Likely is still a force to be reckoned with after the catch. Has the speed you want from a guy if you are going to play an undersized tight end. Reminds me a lot of kind of like a Robert Tonyan in his sort of receiving chops that I think could still play in the NFL. Now, he is still small. That is the thing. But this guy I think he'll go to the Senior Bowl or the Shrine Bowl and turn some heads.
He's also got a very interesting frame. I think a lot of the weight is in his lower half, whereas his upper body is kind of thin. I think I'll be interested to see how he stacks up at the combine in the future. Drake London, another riser for you, also a friend of this podcast, USC wideout who has been phenomenal. I would argue, as a Fred Biletnikoff Award voter, a favorite for the award right now. I know you are as well. 832 yards in 6 games. He has been specifically fantastic after the catch for a guy his size, and also in contested catch situations has been dominating for USC. Very reminiscent of Michael Pittman, who also had himself a game for Indy last night.
And I think skill set wise, that's not terrible. I've made the Brandon Marshall comp with Drake London, and this was a kind of Brandon Marshall-esque game. Remember that one against, who was it against back in like 09 or 08 when he had Jay Cutler throw
like
into
24
him,
times?
And he threw it to
he
set the record. He set the record for receptions in a game. That it was just slant, hitch, whatever, anything underneath, he would just get open immediately, and then is so, at 6'5", 210, Drake London has the ability to box guys out and win at the catch point every single time. And that is a skill that when you're 6'2", 210, that's a skill that you're like, when the guy gets to the NFL, it might not look as good. When you're 6'5", 210 and have his sort of wingspan and have his basketball background and have done it as much as he has, 16 catches on 20 targets in this game for 162 yards, you start to feel good about it. You start to feel like that guy can actually do this at the next level. And yeah, he doesn't have good deep speed. He's probably going to run the 4.6s, but he is your, almost glorified tight end at the next level in that he's going to get open underneath ad nauseum. He's going to be your third down guy when they're in man coverage. 3rd and 6, this is where you're going. And you can rely on him to get open in that regard because everyone knows the route tree he's running here. Utah, 20 targets. Everyone knows he's the only guy that they feature, and he's still produced.
I think using him, you've called him like a big slot, but using him, like a bigger tight end, that, like the Raiders have done with Darren Waller could be pretty beneficial for him in the NFL. The other thing I'll add too, Brandon Marshall did that against the Colts in December of 2009, I think is what you said. But that was not the Jets, the Colts for Brandon Marshall. I like that comp. Next on your list is Matt Corral of Ole Miss, the guy that I had people telling me, he's falling out of the first round after losing to Bama. What? You said it after that game that he did not tank his draft stock in that game. Did not, I think he did not make mistakes on mistakes. Obviously, I did not lose that game for Ole Miss. He's a riser on your list this week.
Yeah, so he did make his first turnover-worthy plays this season.
Oh, no.
Got to put that out there. 2 turnover-worthy plays. He threw a couple deep balls but if you think back to last year, 2020, it was the Arkansas defense that was one of those games where like, holy shit, this is why I'm a little low on Corral. He had 7 turnover-worthy plays last year. No big-time throws. He had a 30.8 passing grade against Arkansas last year because they just stifled him. He kept trying to go downfield and was missing safeties left and right. In this game, not the case. 92.2 overall grade. Obviously, the touchdown at the end was a little bit of a layup on the stutter go for the game-winning score. That one wasn't as great, but he had a 62 air yard throw in this game from throw to catch point. The dude has a hose, and I love his sort of scrambling and rushing ability as a bonus. He is a legit threat. If he runs, I bet he runs somewhere in the 4.6s if he does run. He is a guy that you can absolutely feature to a degree in your rushing offense, can be an actual weapon in that regard to where, like I said, this guy has the most real defenses on his schedule. And a game like this against Arkansas, who qualifies as a real defense, has NFL talent on it, to tear them up the way he did, is about as good a performance as we've seen in this quarterback class this year. About as good a draftable projection performance as we've seen. So, yeah, I would not be surprised if Matt Corral ends up your first quarterback off the board with a strong finisher.
Wow. High praise. I was telling the guys upstairs talking about the next Raiders head coach. I'm ready to see some Lane Kiffin back to the Raiders organization, and why not trade Derek Carr? Maybe get after Matt Corral too to help lure Lane. I don't know. I maybe I'm putting on a tinfoil hat, but I'm liking what I'm hearing there. I think Matt Corral has been obviously fantastic this season. I think you highlighted him as one of those guys that could take a Zach Wilson, Joe Burrow-like leap this year. I think you lumped him in with Carson Strong, the Nevada quarterback, two guys that with good seasons maybe aren't on high on people's radars now, could vault up the boards, and you're saying that again. Kenneth Walker, next on your list, the Michigan State running back. Also a fantastic interview. Trevor Sikkema, an analyst here at PFF, did a sit-down interview with Kenneth Walker, a guy that wants to break every single tackle in his way, and he's done so almost.
Yeah, this guy may end up as a running back one. It's close. At this point, him and Breece Hall, those are your top two running backs in the country right now in the draft class. The way he has played this season, he has 60 broken tackles on 129 carries. I think he might have a little more juice than Breece Hall. He's getting workload for days. I mean, 20 plus, over 20 carries in 4 of his 6 games so far, 29 in this one against Rutgers with 13 broken tackles. Hits seemingly a home run once a week. And it's because he has a lot of ways he can beat you. Like he shakes guys legitimately in the hole at 5'10", 210. Legit NFL size, and will make you miss, but then also lower shoulder and just go through guys. So he has that total package that you like to see, and a very similar sort of physical profile to like a Javonte Williams coming out last year, where like actual maybe not 4.4 speed, but standstill explosiveness is exactly what you want at the position. So that man has made himself a good deal of dough this season.
Kenneth Walker currently leads the FBS in forced missed tackles per carry. That was the stat that Javonte Williams led the FBS in. And guess who leads that stat in the NFL this year? Javonte Williams. One of those things that does correlate pretty positively to success in the NFL is that breaking tackle ability. Walker showing that for Michigan State. Kenyon Green and Evan Neal also making your biggest risers list. Kenyon Green, the offensive lineman for Texas A&M, and Evan Neal, the monstrous athletic offensive tackle for Alabama, both of which did not allow a pressure this week.
Yeah, Neal was very impressive. That was probably the best tape we've seen from Neal all year. That was legitimate, rare, people moving ability, and the likes of which you just can't replicate unless you are, a Bruce Feldman's number one freaks list. You got to be a different type of animal at that position, athletically and physically, to do what he did in that game. And so, yeah, I think we called him ready first round lock. That has been in the past, but now we're moving into this guy's OT1 sort of lock. That's how good his tape has been of late. So him, and then Kenyon Green, the dude keeps getting moved all over. First 2 games at right tackle, next 2 games at right guard, next game after that left guard, and now left tackle in this game for the first time in his collegiate football career. And he balls out, not a single pressure against Alabama. Holy shit! Like this guy, I think he's a tackle at the next level. But obviously, Texas A&M can't make up their mind of where to exactly play. Like, I guess he's too good. Like, he's good enough that he can fill in wherever. But I think he's a left tackle in the NFL. I think you see it when he plays tackle. Those are his 3 highest graded games this year are when he plays out at tackle. So that's where I would put him. And going up against Alabama, not allowing a single pressure is never easy. But he did it.
Yeah, I think how many positions he's played this season is pretty wild. And you saw, I think in the game before this one, where he took some snaps at left tackle, like mid-game, did get beat a little bit. But in this one, obviously, super impressive against the Alabama defense. Biggest fallers, same game, DeMarvin Leal. This was the matchup of the weekend, probably for college football, specifically people who follow the NFL draft closely. Going up against Evan Neal and this Alabama offensive line was not the impact player that he has been in previous weeks.
So now they didn't let him line up against Neal much. Only 13 snaps lined up over Neal, which was his fewest on the right side all season. So a little, tinfoil hat. Try to get him away from him.
I don't even think that's tinfoil hat.
I don't think it was. No, yeah. I think it was. He played more on the interior this week than at any point in time. I think that's where they needed him. But that also, you kind of saw that the reason why Texas A&M is playing him on the edge. Excuse me. Goddamn. Coughing.
He's back.
Because against double teams, he was getting killed in that game. Anytime... My God, my throat's killing me. Anytime you got a double team in that game, he was getting taken off the ball. Now, you had a number of wins one-on-one, and there was still, you still saw the talent, but it was kind of, if you're drafting this guy to play him on the interior, which we've said may be his best NFL position because there's not a lot of 6'4", 290 edges, it just might not be great right away, is what I would worry about watching this tape against Alabama.
Are you still pretty confident that you want to play him on the edge, or do you think he does project as this interior player, a guy that maybe shades inside the tackle or on the guards at the next level?
I think he probably plays the edge. Honestly, I think he's probably like a Trey Flowers, where head up over tackles, maybe like old school 3-4 defensive ends, kind of the base, the strong side end in a 4-3 or, all these hybrid fronts, obviously. There's no one has true one position really anymore, but he's going to be the guy that is not, 3 feet outside your tight end with his hand in the air, with both hands in the air. He's probably your guy that's kicking inside when you need him.
Next on our list here of fallers is Jaleel Billingsley, a guy that I know a lot of Alabama beat writers, Crimson Tide fans have waited for a pretty significant breakout. The tight end, 6'4", 230 this week, just a 36.4 PFF grade, 2 drops, targeted 5 times, 0 catches for Billingsley. That is a stat line you don't want to see. Could be a blackout level stat line if we want to throw him into that segment.
Yeah, so I think Billingsley's a strong candidate, the tight end for Alabama, to just not come out this year because he's talented enough to warrant early round consideration. He has not played well enough or done enough in terms of he was the guy that Nick Saban roasted in the preseason, saying he hasn't worked hard enough. That's why he's not the starter right now. 3 games already this year, 3 of the 6 games. He hasn't even had a catch and is still only about 230 pounds. Still looks more like a wide receiver than he does a tight end. You're going to be a tough sell, even though you are, draft eligible, a true junior. It's going to be a tough sell for an NFL team to try to eat, a whole developmental year on a guy in the first, second, third round that just hoping that he's going to figure it out when, the work ethic has already been questioned by your own head coach. Yeah. So I do think that he's going to have to come back or, play very strong down the stretch. Alabama's obviously going to be playing some big games here in the future, most likely, but he's going to have to either play strongly down the stretch or like I said, probably come back next year to try to turn things around for his draft stock.
Nick Saban not only went off on Billingsley, saying he hasn't practiced hard, that's not really playing. That's when he also went into that rant about this is my job. My job is to play the best players. And if I'm not playing Billingsley, he's not the fucking best player. He was hey, you guys keep asking me why I'm not playing him because he's not good enough. And that's the bottom line. I do think that that rant from Saban was pretty spectacular. Finally, we get to talk about this, though. Everyone has been probably tuning into the show for the Wednesday Sode to hear about the faller that is Spencer Rattler. Spencer Rattler coming off one of the lowest graded single games of his career. 62.9 PFF grade in this one. Just 1 big time throw, 1 turnover worthy play. And probably the biggest stat, 1 benching. Benching for Caleb Williams in this one. Williams down heavy, comes back to beat Texas in what was an absolute fireworks show. The Red River Showdown was worth the price of admission for Caleb Williams, not Spencer Rattler. And my favorite piece of this, I can't wait for you to talk about this free fall that he's in. Oklahoma goes into an absolute frenzy celebrating this game. Spencer Rattler goes to the locker room early. He's not in that picture where they're all in the field, having the time of their lives. That is the biggest concern for me. That screams transfer. That screams go back to school. That does not scream enter the draft and be a first rounder.
Yeah, I do love that he then tweets out, this is on Sunday, he says, huge team win yesterday. Proud of all my brothers, 6-0.
No way. That was from his agent or something. I don't know if that was I don't know, because you saw so many videos, so many images, so many people talking about Rattler and how he didn't celebrate with the team. I feel like he had to have seen that, and obviously wanted to save some face there. But this is a stadium that was chanting F Spencer Rattler. I can't believe I held the F word there. That's growth. But F Spencer Rattler in the stadium. It's absurd, man. He's down bad. He's down horrendous right now.
Yeah, and it's the same dumb shit. It's the same things, and that's the biggest reason. It's why does he go from QB1 preseason, and not just me, a number of people were, because the talent's there. It was 5-star. You see the talent. 92.5 passing grade back in 2020. He has legit arm talent, legit throws on tape, legit plays that are special, that are NFL caliber, that you would draft number 1 overall. But we also said there was a lot of room for growth. There's a lot of things he needed to improve upon. And not only has he not improved upon them, he has seemingly gotten worse in those regards. He is turning down open receivers. I don't know if it's turning down, not seeing them, whatever, but working a half-field read and not getting to the guy who's the open receiver in that half-field read consistently. It's you can't keep doing those things and keep turning down your checkdowns to try to break pockets and taking bad sacks, fumbling footballs, throwing the ball wildly on the move, because it is just harder to complete passes when you are consistently not throwing from the base that you throw from the pocket.
Yeah.
That Rattler it's unsustainable when your situation's not perfect, when you don't have that great blocking, when you don't have that great receiving core that has that inbuilt advantage. It's going to look like shit at the NFL level, and that's why he gets pulled in this game. That's why he's probably not getting that job back anytime soon, and why he's the biggest faller so far this season.
And that has to be so frustrating for Lincoln Riley and the coaching staff. I think you even saw some reports about, like, we just need to get back to basics. We need to get back to basics with Spencer Rattler. Do the little things. Do the simple things.
That's a very good way to put it.
That has not happened. Like that. Yeah. That's, you see, I mean, like, I feel like you could see in your head that, like, Lincoln Riley just, like, kind of banging the clipboard. Like, why can't we just do these simple things to execute the offense? Whereas Caleb Williams comes in and does that. And I do think that you can't go back to Spencer Rattler after this. Not because if you do that, you will divide this locker room in a way that no one wants to see. You saw, I don't know who was commentating that game, but mention how much the team rallied around Williams on the sideline. Like, you see after that score, he had the long rushing touchdown, the sideline just pouring support over Williams. That I think you can't go, like, Lincoln Riley cannot go back to Rattler. I don't think he can.
And that's the other thing that we really haven't touched on about Rattler is that people reportedly
think he's a douchebag. Well, that, I think, reportedly, but also if you watch the Netflix show QB1,
he looked like a douchebag.
He's kind of a douchebag to the backup quarterback there. I mean, I don't even say kind of, like, obviously rude. Obviously rude to the backup quarterback there. Let's not speculate on scenes from a Netflix show on why he's a douchebag. I think the bigger issue is that he has not played good football for Oklahoma, and Caleb Williams taking over. Before we jump to some of our segments.
Watches.
Our watches. Bus Watch Hall of Fame, Whiff Watch, Breakout Watch, Watch, and First Round Lock. Going to talk about a sponsor of the Tailgate Podcast, DraftKings. Another week of the NFL season means another shot to win big at DraftKings Sportsbook, an official sports betting partner of the NFL. New customers can bet just $1 on any NFL game and win $100 in free bets if either team scores a point. The last 0-0 tie in the NFL was in 1943. Mike Renner's mom was there. So I'd say this, a no-brainer. If Sportsbook isn't available in your state, DraftKings won't leave you empty-handed. Everyone can play huge for cash prizes all season long. DraftKings Daily Fantasy Sports Contest. DraftKings is giving all new customers a free shot at millions of dollars in total prizes with their first deposit. Download the DraftKings Sportsbook app now. Use promo code PFF. Throw $1 on any NFL game and win $100 in free bets. If either team scores a point, that's promo code PFF this week at DraftKings Sportsbook, an official sports betting partner of the NFL. Must be 21 years or older. New Jersey, Indiana, or Pennsylvania only. New customers only. Minimum $5 deposit. $1 wager required. One per customer. Restrictions apply. See DraftKings.com/sportsbook for details. Gambling problem? Call 1-800-GAMBLER. On to the watches here. Starting with Bus Watch, meaning a recently drafted player that is busting. And I've already been on my rants on this show about teams bust, not players. Patrick Queen, though, not meeting high expectations. The Baltimore Ravens linebacker, former first rounder, last year earned a 29.7 PFF grade, missed 23 tackles on only 48 attempts. Like, almost half his tackles missed in the, I misspoke. He had 23 missed tackles on almost 100 attempts. That was like a 30% rate, which is high. And then so far this year, 10 missed tackles on 38 attempts. The missed tackles have been a concern, but probably the bigger concern for Patrick Queen has been the coverage. I mean, he has allowed a ton of yards into his coverage so far this year, has allowed 193 yards into his coverage with 0 passes defensed. 19 receptions from 24 targets for 193 yards this season. Continues to be a liability at the second level for Baltimore.
And it's more, I don't know the best way to put it. It's more like the confidence play. He's also not making plays is the other thing. He is only 12 stops in 5 games. He is their every down linebacker. They play a lot of dime where you don't have more than one linebacker on the field. And he has only 12 defensive stops in 5 games. That is 26th among linebackers. So it's like, you can live with a guy who gets exposed. You can live with someone like Devin White last year. It's like he gets exposed.
Devin White this year.
But then he makes plays. Like, then he's going and blowing up screens and that sort of thing. And that's where it's like, you haven't seen that from Patrick Queen. 5 stops week 1 against the Raiders. Has only had multiple stops in 2 of his 4 games since then. Only 7 stops in his 4 games since then.
Explain just stops. I don't think that's a common.
Okay, so stops PFF would just be... It's a measure. It's basically like negative EPA on a play.
On a tackle
that you made. So not all tackles are obviously created equally. If you tackle a guy 20 yards on the football field, it's not as impressive usually as a stop.
I think the formula is close to something along the lines of like less than 4 yards on first down, half the yards needed on second down, and then behind the line on third or fourth down.
Yes. So not making plays on ball carriers, not making plays on the ball in the air, not a single pass breakup, and then still awful tackle rate. Almost a quarter of tackles missed this year. And just the confidence. I think that's the best word. The confidence is like he's not even going in and like diving confidently into tackles. He's kind of like, it just nothing feels, and I get that he has a hard role in Baltimore. It's not easy to play the lone linebacker in that defense with all that they do with their front in front of him. But at the same time, you see that, like you see an athletic guy like Jeremiah Owusu-Koramoah approach a tackle, and the way he sort of doesn't hesitate into contact, doesn't hesitate into his read. Whereas Queen, you would never guess on half his plays that dude runs a 4.5 flat. It just because he doesn't play with that confidence that you saw that stretch down at LSU. And that's kind of the biggest thing is that, man, the guy we saw over that, like, I'm not sure he's ever coming back because he's still, this year and a half in to the scheme in Baltimore that has not changed, he's still playing like this. So that is scary if I am a Ravens fan. Like you said, 29.0 overall grade this year. It's 36.1 against the run, 29.8 in coverage, 32.6 as tackler. It's all like there's not a lot of good, sadly.
Yeah, maybe it's a role change or something that sparks his confidence where he's playing more like he did during. I mean, there was like that 4 or 5 game stretch at LSU where he looked like the most instinctive player on the football field and was flying to the football. And then he tested super well. That's why he rose up draft boards, was ultimately selected 28th overall. You lose that confidence, that like first step you see Owusu-Koramoah playing with and other instinctive linebackers in the NFL. In that role in Baltimore, like you said, the lone linebacker behind that front, you are going to make mistakes. So many that he's now the lowest graded linebacker in football this year. Bust watch, Hall of Fame bust watch. Derrick Henry is, and you said this, I think, in the preseason, that he throws another 2,000-yard season around, he's going to potentially get there.
And that's why, because he is now 5 games in and on pace for 2,000 in a 16-game season. So he's on pace for 2,000 in the old, but now in the 17-game season, he's on pace to break the record. He is on pace for the most rushing yards in a single season. If he does get to 2,000 this year, that would put him only 54th all time, though. So how much more, I guess, is the question here. If he goes 2,000 yards back-to-back, is he in? Could he retire tomorrow? Not tomorrow. That would be, could he retire February? And would he be in the Hall of Fame?
I don't think so. I don't think so.
So
I think he would enter.
He would have more rushing yards than Terrell Davis, I'll just say, if he does get 2,000 this year.
I think he enters that Jamal Charles level of Hall of Fame bid.
Jamal Charles got to make it, though, right?
Yeah, I don't know. A lot of people don't know. I mean, a lot of people think his efficiency was crazy, and he had that few season stretch where he was dominant. I think he needs that third season, and he needs to climb the all-time ranks a little bit more to start to confidently enter the Hall of Fame. Now, I will say, Derrick Henry, because he's rare in more ways than his production. He's like a monster on the football field and like one of the more iconic backs I think the NFL will ever see. Like he's going to enter, like you think in 20, 30 years time, he's going to enter like this Earl Campbell level of like, you guys don't remember Derrick Henry. You're going to be telling your kids like, do you know, no one ever saw anything like this guy. I think he'll enter that like rarefied air to where he'll get some votes because of that, because he's like that different of a human being. Mm-hmm. But I, from a production standpoint, I think you do need to see another year of like legitimate, 1,500, 1,600 yard plus rushing totals to enter like more all-time ranks.
Yeah, and the thing is, like, I think Derrick Henry's going to have a few more, and I think he'll end up getting there. But I think if he goes for 2,000 yards back-to-back years, I'd put him in then.
Fair enough. Well, we've already had the conversation about how stupid I think the Hall of Fame like process is for the NFL. You're not wrong. It's become the hall of whoever the hell you want because we let in the a minimum amount of players every single year. It's just like ridiculous. I think they should be. It's like, hey, no one makes it this year because everyone sucks, or like 2 or 3. It doesn't have to be whatever the minimum is in the NFL. All right, Whiff Watch.
This one we're combining with Breakout Watch because they're the same person.
I like it
because Charles Harris, the now defensive end for the Detroit Lions.
He's bounced around the league quite a bit.
Has been with 3 different teams already in this now year 5. He got cut from Miami after 3 years. He had 34 pressures as a rookie, never had more than that in a single season since. Fell out of favor there. Was 36th player on the PFF draft board that year. So we were a little lower on him than where he went at 22nd overall to the Dolphins that year, but still like 36 for a guy who's out of the NFL or not out of the NFL, off his team in 3 years is a lot. But this year, 83.9 pass rushing grade, and it's not really a fluke because he has had an above average pass rushing grade in all 5 games this season. It's not like one game is carrying him against a shit tackle. No, he's been very good this season, and I think it's because, I'm going to say it, they're letting him do the spin move anytime that he wants to. If you watched him at Missouri, Charles Harris, he was the spin move king. This guy had the deadliest spin move in college football that year. He was, I believe, a top 5 graded pass rusher, and it was about half his pressures were via the spin move. This year he has 15 pressures. 9 of them came on spin moves already. So a lot of defensive coaches will not let their defensive end spin. They'll say if you spin, you have to get home, or else because you are for that split second, you can't get your hands up. You're not you can easily break contain if you aren't successful with it. It's just a high risk sort of maneuver that some defensive line coaches will just say, I'd rather my guys not spin. Charles Harris is solely relying on it, and they're letting them in this defense just go to town every single time he wants to. He's spinning left and right. 9 pressures on it already is pretty ridiculous. So that's why he is on the breakout watch this year, having the best season of his career.
How much of that is just Dan Campbell being a player's coach? Charles Harris comes in, he says, I want to use the spin. He's like, dude, light it up. Let's spin it up. Let's spin it. Let's let Booby spin. Let Charles spin. Yeah. 9 pressures of 15 on spin moves. That's a fantastic stat. Washed watch. We brought him up on the Monday show, unfortunately.
Yeah.
Nate Solder.
Yeah.
Against Randy Gregory was borderline a crime. I think if it was a boxing fight, it'd be on PPV. This was a tough one. This was a tough one for Nate Solder. You are knockout. Officially putting him on the watch.
Yeah, and I couldn't forgive him for taking some L's at right tackle. He was a career left tackle, but in this game he was playing left tackle. They flipped him back over to left tackle to go up against Randy Gregory and allowed 8 pressures, the 14.8 pass blocking grade, some in a comical fashion. He doesn't have it anymore. And the fact is, the Giants have now made him the highest graded tackle in the NFL to earn a 75.7 overall grade his first year there, 64.9 his second year, opt out his third year, and now a 46.2 overall grade. A disaster of a signing that they should have gotten out from under a while ago.
Yeah, that's right.
You gave 11 sacks in 2019. It was already going south, and now it is rock bottom.
Last segment of the show before we get to Tyler Linderbaum, the Iowa Center, the interview there. First round lock. Read off who you've already locked in and then who you have submitted this week.
Yeah, we got 7 guys already locked in. We're getting to
this is dicey.
The tough one. So Kayvon Thibodeau, Oregon edge, Derek Stingley, LSU corner, Evan Neal, Bama tackle, Aiden Hutchinson, Michigan defensive end, Kyle Hamilton, Notre Dame safety, DeMarvin Leal, Texas A&M defensive end, and Tyler Linderbaum last week, Iowa Center. And I still don't want to go a quarterback. I still really don't feel like there's one that I know for sure, even though, let's be honest, a quarterback will go in the first round.
I think multiple
will go in the first round. I don't care if it's a bad class. Multiple are going in the first round. That's just the way. Like Geno Smith goes in the first round.
Jake Locker, EJ Manuel.
Even I don't care if it's a bad quarterback class. The desperation wins out. But I'm still not going quarterback. I'm going to go Garrett Wilson, the Ohio State wide receiver. Just the more I watch him, the more I'm just like, you can't let this guy slip. It's just not going to slip to the second round. It would be insane to me if he slipped to the second round. And now I know that wide receiver 1's up in the air with a number of different people. Some people have Olave. Some people have Jahan Dotson.
Not for long. I don't think
But Garrett Wilson is, from an NFL talent perspective, like the ease at which you saw the touchdown, or I guess the 2 touchdowns this past week, were not complex routes that should not have had that much separation. A fade route where he has 3 yards of separation on the goal line is insanity.
Yeah.
A go ball where he is 5 yards behind the cornerback, and he's not a speedster like that. He's probably like a high 4.4s, maybe even low 4.5s guy. He's not that fast. Is insane because that's just the level of shiftiness, the level of craftsmanship he has in his releases that eventually this guy is just going to go in the first round somewhere. Now, I'm not saying like he's the 8th guy I've mentioned. I would be surprised if he goes in the top 8 picks, but he'll go in the top 32.
I think that's fair. I think both him and Olave could ultimately be both first round picks. To put it, I remember when we had Sean Wade on the show, Chris Olave, he's a speedster. He can get on you so quick. And when you brought up Wilson, he's like, he just has it. Like he has it. Yeah. He has the spectacularness to, I don't even know if it's a word, but he has it. And that's what, consistently creates separation on the football field and in practice against Shaun Wade. Love that first round lock list. Before we get to the Tyler Linderbaum interview, your favorite sponsor of the Tailgate Podcast. It's football season, baby. And you know what that means. It means we're going for 2 here with the sponsor of today's show, Manscaped. Blitzing through hairs has never been easier. And it's time for you to join 2 million men worldwide who trust Manscaped by using code PFF at manscaped.com for 20% off plus free shipping. It's 3 and out the window with all your other trimmers. Now go tame that Wildcat offense. I've honestly leveraged the Lawnmower 4.0 when I'm down, when I need to just kind of bounce back. You're having an L streak at the bars, you're having an L streak in your life. Go swing the bat on the 4th generation lawn trimmer to bounce back. You need that confidence booster. The brand new Lawnmower 4.0 is here to take your defense to the next level or your offense. This 4th generation trimmer features a cutting-edge ceramic blade to reduce grooming accidents thanks to their advanced skin-safe technology. The Lawnmower 4.0 has a 7,000 RPM motor, a new multifunction on-off switch that can engage a travel lock, and gives you the ability to turn on a 4,000 LED spotlight on and off when needed for a more precise shave. Did I mention this trimmer is waterproof too? Rain, snow, sleet are no match for the waterproof power of the 4.0. There's no 15-yard penalty for this clipping. Get 20% off and free shipping with code PFF at manscaped.com. That's 20% off with free shipping at manscaped.com and use code PFF. Stiff arm your pubes out the playoffs, baby, this year with Manscaped. All right, Manscaped, now out the window, along with your other trimmers. Let's get to Tyler Linderbaum, Iowa Center. Now joining the Tailgate Podcast is current Iowa Center Tyler Linderbaum. Big friend of yours, Tristan Wirfs, has talked about you so much on this show, talked about your friendship and how much you've improved over the course of your career at Iowa, how much you've just really developed as a player on and off the field. So it's an honor to have you on the show, my friend.
Thanks for having me.
Before we get into the wrestling matches with Tristan Wirfs and you personally, how much you've had success at Iowa, I want to start with, you guys are the number 2 team in the country, having so much success to start the season, coming off a big win against Penn State. Talk to me about the energy of the locker room right now, the energy of this team. What has this week been like for you guys as you approach Purdue and the back half of your schedule?
Yeah, it's definitely been an exciting start, to be in the position that we're at right now. Just proud of the guys, proud of our team, how we fought through all these games. And then, we're kind of looking at it as a seven-week season going into bye week, and we got one more week. We got 4 more days. So just a big focus on Purdue. Just starts our preparation this week and what we can do in practice to improve ourselves. And then, take care of business on Saturday.
I've talked to a handful of teams and players on teams that are in really high up positions with high expectations. How do you avoid getting comfortable or complacent with the success that you've had? I think it's one of those things that a lot of teams or players can struggle with, and that you have these high expectations and you overlook the Purdues of the world and these things. How do you make sure you go 1-0 every single week and don't lose sight of obviously the big prize?
Yeah, as you continue to win more games, there becomes a target on your back. Say we're 0-6. I think it's a little easier to find motivation to try to win a game. But you just need to focus, know that, target's going to be on your back, and just every day is important just to excel as a team and improve your team. And that's kind of the mindset we've had this whole year. Focus on ourselves, what we can do to get better. And then once it comes to game time, play together, play as a team. And I think we've done a great job of that, but we're in Big Ten play now. No team is going to be easy. It's hard to win. You look all the way around across the country. There's upsets everywhere. So just focus on what you need to focus on is going to be very important. And, we're going to be excited to play come Saturday.
I'm going to turn back the clocks a little bit and focus on you and your development at Iowa. I know you started at Iowa in, we came into Iowa around 265 pounds. Were originally slated to play defensive tackle, played that position all of 2018. And then late in that season, I think during the bowl area, you make that switch to center and have improved every single year of your career with the Hawkeyes, adding weight every single year as well, always kind of tagged as this undersized interior offensive lineman. And now, everyone, including PFF, is talking about you as the best interior offensive lineman in college football. Speak to who has helped you along the way in that development, and I guess how you approached every year trying to get better at the center position.
Yeah, I credit, it to all of my teammates and coaches just helping me along the way. It was a rough start, just from that bowl prep, just first playing the position. especially at a collegiate level. There were definitely some challenges. There's definitely still some challenges now, just learning curves that every day continue to get better and better. But without my teammates or coaches, I don't think any of this would be possible. I just have such great people around me to help push me every day.
What has been the diet over the course of the years? Have you been big smoothies? You talk to different people who have added a ton of weight in college. Some people eat 16 Chipotle burrito bowls a day. Others are doing raw eggs and smoothies. What have you done, or what has helped you, pack on the weight?
Yeah, so here at Iowa, we spend a lot of money on, food and nutrition and all that stuff, over probably $1 million. So we have refuel stations where we can grab sandwiches and stuff like that. And also we get fed 2 times a day, just full meals. So, anytime I can get calories in me, especially as a weight gainer early on in my career, it was very important just to do that. And also, we have one of the best strength conditioning programs in the country. So that definitely helped. Just put it on size, put it on mass. So credit to the strength coaches and them.
I want to talk more about your relationship with Tristan Wirfs, on and off the field, dating back to when you guys were teammates and now. How much are you talking with him now that he is in the NFL, still taking tips from him and honestly just learning from what he's done already, having a ton of success, obviously, in Tampa Bay?
Yeah, so our relationship goes back to high school. Our high schools aren't too far apart. We're rivals and all that. I've played him in football, baseball, wrestling, and then obviously track. He's excelled in all those sports. So just having someone that close who excelled in all those sports, to be that close to me, and it helped me get better, helped push me in all those sports to try to get to where he was. And I think that's important. And obviously coming to Iowa, we were pretty good friends, I guess, towards the end of his high school career. We talked a lot at meets and stuff like that, but anytime I can get a learn from a Super Bowl champ, I'm going to listen. And some of the stuff that he's able to do is just crazy. He's a special athlete, and he's just a great person all around too. So yeah, I'm happy that we have a friendship, pretty close, and I'm going to continue to build closer bonds with him and continue to learn from him as his career and my career continues to go on.
Tristan also mentioned that the Iowa offensive line, over the years has really set an expectation to always be great, to always be the strength of the roster. How is the relationship in the trenches? How much do you guys take pride in, being the strength of the offense and consistently putting out obviously quality play year in, year out?
Yeah, it's very important. Whenever I think about that, I think about all the people that, came before me, the Tristan Wirfs, especially all the guys in the NFL who have had success, people like them that, Robert Gallery, you can name a handful of people who have excelled at that position and have excelled in the NFL. It's important to carry on that torch of that standard that, has been set in place. And then I think it just starts also with a great coaching staff. Coach Ferentz, prides himself with the O-line. He's an O-line coach before. So, and it all starts up in the trenches. That's how you win ball games on the offensive and defensive side of the ball.
Going to finish with this one, Tyler. I really appreciate the time. You have Purdue this week, and then you have the bye, and then you got Wisconsin, Northwestern, Minnesota, Illinois, Nebraska to finish the season. I know you guys are looking to go 1-0 every single week, get through Purdue, enter this bye, really reset before the back half of the season. What are you looking at from a personal goals perspective to finish the year? Obviously, the team goals are obvious. Let's go win it all. But for you, what are you hoping to accomplish towards the back half of the season?
I think, like you said, 1-0, but I think that's the most important thing. As a team, coach says it all the time, if a team's doing well, those individual accolades will come with it. If you're focused on, making the team better, then whatever accolades come, they're going to come just because your team's doing well. So, I'm focused on Purdue this week and what I can do to help my team be better and most prepared for this game. And then, once we go into bye week, we'll be able to get, rest our feet up, maybe watch some games on Saturday. And then, once that next week hits, I think we have Wisconsin, then, it's another season and you're going to have to finish off those 5 games. And we'll see where we're at from there. But, I think you have to take it one game at a time. I think that's the most important thing. It's a long season and, it gets hard, but taking one game at a time, 1 week at a time is very important.
Love that, man. Really appreciate the time and really appreciate you joining the show. Best of luck for the rest of the season, my guy.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
That's going to do it for today's show, the Wednesday edition of Tailgate. Make sure you rate, review, and subscribe to the podcast. We are definitely offering 25% off any PFF subscription with promo code TAILGATE. Show support for the show while leveraging that promo code. Until next time, producers Stone Rochelle, Max Chadwick, David Safaro, Mike Quinn, and then, of course, Austin Gayle, Mike Renner, Tailgate.